And what ultimately happened then was that under the agreement, the state, DEP, and they've got great scientists, as I was saying, they proposed nitrogen and phosphorus limits for a variety of different water bodies. These were dark canyon lakes. They set them for those. They set them for clear lakes. There are two types of clear lakes, alkaline and acidic. They set them for streams, and they had, I think my map is next, 5 ecoregions around the state, which are different climatically, geologically, and geographically, and they're separated that way. And then they set them for springs too. It's all the springs are the same. They're only nitrate limits. And so now here's a really important issue that's really important for people to understand is the difference between a water quality standard, which is like a speed limit on the whole highway. The idea is this standard has to be met. I guess that's a poor metaphor. It has to be met throughout the whole water body. So this is sort of like you see the lake as one big bathtub, and what you're looking for is the concentration in the bathtub as a whole. That's really different than the other thing that you see in the Clean Water Act, which is the effluent limit, the limit of how much you can put in a pipe. Well, obviously, you've got a great big river, and you have a point source like this, which is pouring pollutant in, really doesn't cause any damage if it pollutes down enough, or it doesn't cause a problem. Most of the time, it doesn't cause a problem. And what happened was that the polluting industries really deceived the public and are still working on it by claiming that the water quality standards are actually the end of the pipe. Well, no industry, hardly any industries could actually meet it at the end of the pipe, but that's true of all pollution. You don't need it at the end of the pipe, you need it in the water line. So that's one of the first things they did. They said, well, we're all going to go broke. In every water pollution case that I've ever done, you get 3 arguments. One is that it will take forever and cost us bajillions of dollars to do anything at all about this problem, and it'll take 25 years. Argument number 2 is that, well, actually, we've already solved this problem. And argument number 3 is that fish like it. And we saw that in this one too. Unfortunately, the political pressure on DEP was too much, and as what happened in many states, the polluting industries put so much pressure on them that the DEP balked and gave up on doing their own standards. And that's why we had a consent decree, was because of the danger that was going to happen. So what happened is EPA stepped in and adopted the same standards, not exactly the same, but almost the same standard as the state had proposed in 2009. And of course, that wasn't good enough to adopt what the state had done, because some industries simply were not satisfied with that outcome. And what happened was they got a big campaign going on. This was in every newspaper in the state, a half-page ad, saying that these limitations on this kind of pollution that causes toxic slime is actually not a pollution limit, it's a tax that will wipe out the Florida economy. So this is literally what was in every newspaper in the state. That's how crazy and desperate this was. So another thing they did as an illustration, the Lake Worth Drainage District near here sent out bill stuffers, and the bill stuffers said that we had to increase the tax to like the $2,000 from $25. And what they needed the money for was, because of these new EPA rules, we're going to require them to have enough cash to bulldoze neighborhoods and build treatment plants. So, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that makes you cynical about government. It was absolute bullying from the beginning. And I don't think people believed it because it seemed too far-fetched, and of course, implementations were true. Another claim was that you have to do reverse osmosis for every pollution discharge. You can see I'm going back to the difference between an effluent limit at the end of the pipe and the water body as a whole. They were all claiming it was the end of the pipe standard. And that every single discharge in the state would have to have reverse osmosis. at a cost of billions of dollars. And the story you all probably know from around here was that your utility bill was gonna go up $720 a year because it was gonna require reverse osmosis. The most entertaining, point on this one was that the Utility Association, the Sewage Association, actually produced a report about the impact of the standards, and in which it calculated the cost of compliance as including doing reverse osmosis on treated sewage before they put it, injected it in deep wells. So they just wanted to make sure that deep well injection was really clean. It was preposterous. So what happened was there was a whole series of legal challenges to those federal rules in which we represented our clients, protecting and defending the rules. The first one was that this was a federalism idea. Of course, we're hearing a lot about that these days. Federalism is an issue that people focus on a lot politically, and I'll be honest with you and tell you that the states' rights thing, in my view, is highly overrated. That's not a real legal argument. It was just, a political thing. The next challenge was that EPA's determination that we really needed these standards didn't consider crucial information about all these programs that we had. Well, if the programs are working, why is the whole place getting covered with green slime? The next argument was that the EPA's rule was a one-size-fits-all rule. Well, I just explained that to you. They adopted the state's rule, and it's not one-size-fits-all. It's 5 ecoregions and different kinds of lakes and springs and variances and everything else. If there ever was not a one-size-fits-all, this is the one. And that was just preposterous. Another one was that EPA's science is completely wrong, but of course it was actually the state science. Florida has an extraordinarily good set of data because it has 30,000 data points about nutrients. And it has been said, and I think with some truth, that well over 20% of the data on nutrient pollution, phosphorus and nitrogen pollution in the entire United States is from Florida. So this was joint science with EPA and the state, and the science was, as good as you get. It was just extraordinary. The argument was also made that we've got all these other programs. I don't want to bore you with the TMDL, but it's basically a program to try to restore things after they've gotten messed up. So they say, we'll fix it after we screw it up. Well, you all know what that looks like here in this county. When it's screwed up, you can't turn back usually. One interesting story was they all got together and they said massive sort of petitions to the congressional delegation from every industry in the state, Cattlemen, Farm Bureau, Associated Industries, everything there, but the list was typically 38 to 50 names of the big industries, demanding that the congressional delegation adopt some sort of amendment or something like that would pull the plug on these rules. And what was really great is it kind of showed that our system really works. This budget rider process really did show that the system works, because we had everybody. We had Rubio, Nelson, everybody under the sun. A number of state representatives didn't go along with it. But you had everybody under the sun supporting this thing. But what was nice about it was that, the Congress was actually a fairly responsible body, and they looked at it and said, you're crazy. You've got slime over actually everywhere, and here you are trying to put the air brakes on some way of fixing it. It just didn't fly. It was just too much pandering to special interest, and that's the nice thing about having the federal government. So what happened was that DEP recently, the Scott administration, proposed some new nutrient rules. These are the most complicated administrative rules that I have ever seen in my life. We charted out, the last few days that we were doing a proposed order in this thing, we charted out how this rule works on paper with a flow chart and boxes. And it's not done yet. And so far, there are 15 pages of flow charts done so far, and we're not done yet showing what happens. And there's one common principle to the way this incredibly complex rule works. It's connected to, the impaired waters rule. It's a list of waters that are too polluted to comply with standards. And it shoots and ladders. And what happens is that you end up, going through these studies and doing all these measurements, and then when you get to the top, you hit the chute, and you're right back down to study land. And what basically happens is there's two options under this incredibly complex rule, which is A, you're in compliance, and there's 9 ways to be in compliance, some of which are absolutely crazy. And the other alternative is you go down the chute, down into study land. And so you end up in study limbo or compliance. You're meeting the standard. There's no other option. It's studies or you're okay. There's no way to enforce this thing at all. It's absolutely insane. So we filed a case on behalf of our same clients in the state, challenging the legality of this rule on a variety of different grounds, centering on the idea that we have a toxic algae disaster that's taking place throughout the state, and this doesn't do anything except postpone and avoid dealing with it. And that just doesn't qualify as a water quality standard that protects the public health safety law. That's the summary of what we said. And what happened was that the entire group of polluting industries jumped into the case. But there we are in the courtroom, and it's sort of us over there in the corner, and over here is this army of lawyers for the polluting industries. I got them to do a group photo. Oh, that's not it. We challenged the rules. I'm not over here. Go ahead. There it is. Here we are. And look at that. That's our little team, and almost all of those folks are the lawyers for the bad guys. And they were at the same line of tables as the State Department and the Department of Protection. So that case is under advisement right now. We're getting our proposed orders in, I think, 10 days or something like that. And we'll get an order probably, I'd say, by early May, and that's going to be a really, really big deal. Meanwhile, what happened is the Judge Hinkle in the Northern District took all those challenges I described earlier and upheld them as being scientifically valid. He said the need for having specific numeric limits on these pollutants and water bodies is desperately needed, that the evidence is overwhelming, that we have to have these. There were a couple technical defects. One was an oversight, the other one was didn't have a complete scientific explanation of how they did the strings criteria. They have till, I guess, May 22, my memory's right, to fix that, and it was a technical thing. So it was a route for the industries challenging this thing. And so where we are right now is that hopefully we'll get somewhere in challenging the state rule. We'll get something that does effectively deal with the toxic algae problem throughout the state by setting limits on those, and we need to get the state folks and the county folks to buy into that and start implementing this thing. And if we do right, we have a real chance, a real honest chance by working together, having our voices heard, consolidating our efforts, and aggressive advocacy to government. We really have a real chance at solving this problem. And I submit that that's what we can do. The question for me when I run around, and I'm sure the question you see, is that are we looking like the developing world here? You see this in places like India. You see it in places like Africa. But in civilized countries, in developed countries, you don't see this happen. And our government needs to understand that there is there's a problem that they really need to get their hands around, and that our polluting industries need to start acting like good corporate citizens. That is what we do in this country. So the question is, how do you solve this problem? Common sense. Don't leave all together. And that's what we can do. That's what we